Alright, hello, and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and we live in a clown world. We live in absolute la-la land these days. Here's a dictionary definition of a recession for you, in case you don't know. It's a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified as a fall in GDP in 2 successive quarters. So just as an example, it doesn't mean you have to go negative. If you have 4% growth, then 3% the following quarter, and 2%, then this will count as a recession. 3 is below 4 and 2 is below 3. Okay, so 2 quarters back to back where that number is below the one prior. That's how we define a recession 99% of the time, right? That is the dictionary definition. The White House has just decided it's unlikely that the decline in GDP in the first quarter of this year, even if followed by another GDP decline in the second quarter, indicates a recession. So they just decided, doesn't matter what the definition is, doesn't matter what the dictionary says, doesn't matter that that's the term and the parameters that we've used forever. We're just gonna go into a recession and we just won't call it that. We'll just say that nope, not this time. We're not gonna count it. I mean, what is going on? Here's Yellen. Even if GDP is negative, doesn't mean we're in a recession. False. Yes, it does. Anyway. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And you can see that here with the Google Trends search, right? The recession's search term, interest over time, it's higher than it's been since pre-2004. Okay, so that includes the financial crisis of 08 and 09. Even more people are searching for the term recession now than they were in the C19 era plunge. So people aren't buying it. The USA is expecting lower than expected interest rate rises. So Bitcoin should react positively, so should the stock market. I've been calling for this pivot, so perhaps we are finally getting closer to September, as you know. Perhaps we are finally also about to see this pivot to a more dovish stance, and I expect enormous upside for all risk assets shortly afterwards. The Bitcoin Lightning Network continues to make new all-time highs, okay? And I got a nice video for you here for people that say, oh, you can't use it as money, it doesn't function as currency.
So we're doing a Fiat versus Bitcoin Lightning pay test in Gibraltar. £2.20 loaded on both screens. We have Bitcoin versus Fiat. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, is that? Lightning's done it.
So there you have it, just as fast, if not faster, than your regular MasterCard debit card payments. Tether, Bitfinex, and Hypercore have launched something called Hole Punch, which is a platform for building fully encrypted peer-to-peer applications. You can read more about it there. However, the thing I just wanted to point out was they've also launched something called Keat, a peer-to-peer chat app with integrated Bitcoin and Lightning Network and USDT payment support. So over time, all altcoins will become obsolete because you can just eventually build everything on top of Bitcoin, albeit perhaps a little bit more clunky if we're being honest. It does take a little bit longer to build things properly on top of Bitcoin than other, but that's because the security is so high. So over time, we'll continue to see this. The Brazilian equities broker XP Inc. is going to offer Bitcoin trading to 3.6 million customers starting next month. So again, this is more adoption, this is more onboarding. We are reaching wider and wider audiences every week. China. The Supreme Court is going to conduct research into cryptocurrency to protect investors' rights, whatever that means. We've got this from T Analyst. He's saying that the double falling wedge is a very bullish pattern. I'm not sure why he's omitted 30k, because 30k would have been quite an obvious target to me. There's obviously a lot of resistance in this range. But he's got these 3 targets here, 26, 47, and 67k. So we'll see about that. FTX is going to help Voyager customers deploy hundreds of millions to help them get their crypto back. Something about this just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know if you know, but he gave around, I think it was about $200 million to Voyager right before they went broke, which is kind of strange, because why didn't they give it back? He must have known they were about to go broke. So this is all kind of weird, and now he's come out as this good guy in the space that's trying to help these people get their crypto back. I don't know, something about this just doesn't sit right with me. Let me know in the comments what you think. Meanwhile, the Binance CEO, CZ, has had to file a defamation lawsuit against Bloomberg because they won't stop accusing him of being a scam artist and rigging things So hopefully he can win, because Bloomberg are quite a toxic news outlet, in my humble opinion. I don't know if you've ever seen this clip. You can just skip forward a minute and a half if you have. The Simpsons explaining cryptocurrency.
Beloved
I'll just quickly play you
Mr.
this.
Jim Parsons.
People think I'm a nerd, but I'm actually super cool. That's why I'm here to talk about the really cool subject of distributed consensus-based cryptocurrency. Kachinga. Could a nerd do that? I don't think so. For cryptocurrency to work, we need a record of every transaction that occurs. These are recorded in what's called a distributed ledger.
I'm a consensus of shared and synchronized digital data spread across multiple platforms from Shanghai to Grenada. Each day I'm closer to being cash of the future, not in your wallet, I'm in your computer. Oh yeah.
When you use the currency, the transaction is recorded in the ledger.
I can dig it.
And when one ledger book gets filled up, we add to a chain of previous books. That's the blockchain.
Later, glitches.
If you'd like to learn more about how cryptocurrencies work, here's everything else you need to know. And goodbye from me, super cool Jim Parsons.
Anyway, so that is a clip that came out a little while ago. I think around a year and a half ago. Why am I bringing this up? Well, because I don't watch Simpsons really personally, but they are kind of known for making a whole heap of predictions that come true many years later in the future. So I got a list of them here. I'm not going to go through it. You can go and check this out if you're interested. The reason I brought all of this up so far is because in one of the latest episodes, they had the Bitcoin price with their prediction of infinity. Bitcoin to infinity. And it's true, Bitcoin has no top because fiat currency has no bottom. So I just thought I'd show you that. Thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, back in the real world, we've got the rational root showing a drop below realized price. So as you can see here, the question is, or at least from root, are we going to repeat 2018, where we have this base building for another potentially 100 odd days, and then we come up and start a bull market? Or are we going to do something like we did in 2014, where we come up and then have to have a big trough down and then another big trough down for a much more drawn out and extended period of time? So this 2014 cycle will be considerably more painful, as it represents around about a year or so, close to a year of consolidation, versus this one here, which would be significantly less painless. There's always the chance that we just flip this into support and go, right? And that this becomes a 35-day bottom. But who knows, really? Who knows? My bias is that we're not going to find the true low until around November or December. But of course, if we get a Fed pivot in September, perhaps, then the bottom will be in pretty quick, in my opinion, as I've been saying over and over on this channel. 50% would invest in Bitcoin and crypto if banks offered such services in South Africa. So expect to see that in the not too distant future. Mexican crypto exchange Bitso has announced that it's surpassed 1 million users in Brazil. So again, we're seeing this sort of thing over and over and over again, and we will continue to see this. Bitcoin has 2 times higher 30-day trading volume than Apple stock. And this is from Finbold. So again, we're going to continue to build volume. We're going to continue to build and onboard the users. Plan B has shown here that around 40% of all 19 million Bitcoins are in the loss, blue dot. Historically, blue is a great accumulation zone. How long blue? He says it could be a month, like in the C19 era plunge. It could be 2 months, like in 2011. It could be 6 months, like in 2018. It could be 9 months, like in 2014 and 15. Only time will tell. Currently at 3 blue dots. Are you going to wait until green? Nupal, which is the net unrealized profit and loss for Bitcoin, has entered capitulation and exited it, as you can see here. So has the tide turned? Have we seen the bottom already? Something that is very interesting to me is the volume that we've had over the last week or two has actually exceeded that of the rebound from the C19 plunge. So that was massive volume that led obviously to a 1,700-ish% rise, and we've just exceeded that volume. So we will see. And at the same time, the supply shock, this is from Game of Trades as well, Bitcoin long-term holders have been selling into market weakness. This dynamic has only happened in 2014, 2015 capitulation and 2020 capitulation, both marking major bottoms. And the reason for this is because people just get to a point where they mentally cannot take it anymore. They lose faith, they forget what they hold. And a quick point to make here is, I understand that a lot of people just got into the market at silly numbers because they didn't understand what they were buying, and then the macro appeared to change or get worse, and now all you hear is but macro this, macro that. But remember, the only reason to actually own Bitcoin in the first place is because there's a great reset coming. We've known a giant recession and possibly a great depression is going to come at some point. We've known this for years. Everyone has known that when this massive bubble eventually pops, everything is going to go tumbling down and it's going to be a horrible, horrible time to be an asset holder. We've known this forever, and this is why we own Bitcoin. This is why you hold Bitcoin, right? So to start selling now because the macro is shifting and we've had a little bit of downturn, I mean, if you sell your hedge against central bank failure and against fiat currency collapse, then what have you got to hedge the risk at? Then what? Then you're going to hold fiat, which is 100% guaranteed to go to zero. I mean, remember, have some perspective. Lastly, before we get into the charts, this is a weekly chart for the dollar index, and we've got bearish divergence on the RSI here. If you don't know what that is, it's when price makes a higher high whilst the oscillator makes a lower high, and this is generally a sign of a weakening or exhausted trend. So, doesn't mean we can't make one last high and one last lower high here or something. But ultimately, I think we are getting closer and closer, as I keep saying, to seeing the top in this dollar. I don't think we're quite there yet, although the Fed could change that on Wednesday or Thursday quite easily. At the same time, we got this dollar trend exhausting or coming to an end. The John Bollinger, the author, the creator of the Bollinger Bands, has said, from the Department of Cognitive Dissonance, inflation is the #1 topic and gold is 18% off its March high. 18% off its March high. And I really think that a lot of that is because of the pressure the dollar has exerted on everything, right? But if gold is going to do gold things like I think it has, like I've been calling for it to do, I think we're about to get long. Not just yet. You can see my patience has paid off because I don't know if this is going to take out this low, form a double bottom and give me a better entry down here. I don't know yet. So a little bit more patience is better. But one thing that I do know is if gold is going to do gold things, then it really has to get moving and it needs to do it soon. If we start to break down from here, then it's not going to do this for a very long time. But I do think the conditions are ripe to see a massive, massive, massive bull run that takes us to new highs for gold in the coming weeks. So it would be interesting to see what happens to the dollar. I suspect when the dollar finally breaks down, that is what's going to send gold to new highs. But again, as I've been saying, although we've broken the parabola, we're into trendline support, I do think we need to bounce to make a lower high first, and then we can get a true breakdown. The Fed, of course, can change that this week. It could just decide to say something that will cause the dollar collapse, but I don't think that's how it's going to work. Typically, for a topping structure, you'd want to see a lower high and then a breakdown. Bitcoin is looking weak. Hard to say anything other than that. It looks weak, doesn't it? We are back below this horizontal. We're back into this range. So what do? Well, continue to push. There's nothing else you can do. Lose this low and that's it really. Flip short because all those people that wanted 12 to 14k are going to get their wish. But until we lose that low, then I remain bullish and I remain long. So we'll see what happens there. Ethereum is hanging on to this area, isn't it? But again, really, we've had a bull flag and a breakdown, and this reminded me an awful lot of the S&P, where we went up, consolidated, and then broke down. So is that what we're going to see from Ethereum? I'd rather not, but obviously I have no control. So perhaps we're going to come down and just bounce off of this blue trend line here and then go. But for now, we're underneath this trend line, so that's the first warning sign, isn't it? However, if we can hold this green box, then I see no reason why we can't continue to push to 2200 USD. So we will remain long and strong. MATIC, again, warning signs, isn't it? Now, it can come all the way back down to this trend line. It could easily round from here, but the early warning signs are telling us we've broken to the downside of this pennant. So I've lightened up my MATIC position. I have no risk but it's lightened up now because, I mean, there's nothing to say that it won't just get stopped out. If it does get stopped out and then it shows me a bottom, I can always re-enter, but whatever happens now, I've got some profit locked there. Taken some off Ethereum. I've already mentioned taking some off the NASDAQ. I've taken none off of Bitcoin. Bitcoin I just want to push. Still got my NASDAQ position, as you can see. We're just going to try to push this as much as possible. There's going to be a lot of chop, and then I can go back to full exposure on a trendline break if we get it. JD Sports, right into trendline support. I've drawn these two trend lines here just to see which one it's going to respect, if any. So, but again, same thing, long and strong, continue to push. The S&P is looking a bit better than the NASDAQ. Obviously, there's a lot of tech earnings this week. And I think the Dow is looking even better, or certainly better than the NASDAQ. But again, it all comes down, doesn't it? It really all comes down to what the Fed says this week and whether or not we get a recession. It seems like we're going to, but they're going to tell us that it's not a recession. Got my UKX position, which is finally showing some strength. So continue to push this. Oil, still not interesting to me. Trendline break, and I changed my tune. I've already covered gold. I'm still waiting patiently for a trendline break here on the silver miners, but I'm really looking forward to taking that position. I can get a lot of leverage on this instrument personally without overexposing myself to risk. So I'm really looking forward to this giving me a buy signal, assuming that it will. And I think that's everything. Got the 10-year yields, thinking about breaking down, lose these lows and it's these lows, and lose that and it's game over. So we'll see. I would think that this is either going to break out or lose these lows this week once the Fed has given its signal. So anyway, that's the update from me. That's my thoughts on everything at the moment. If you found value here today, I'd appreciate if you could drop a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and go over to Twitter and follow me there. I do this stuff every day, more or less. So if you want to see more from me, make sure you turn the notifications on, and then you won't miss anything. And until next time, take care. All the best. Cheers. Bye.